And we felt we could do a good service to the meat industry from a technical standpoint because of the access to content that we have from our members, universities. We know where a lot of good science-based content resides. So the vision was to kind of put it all together in one place on a website.
Hello, meat folks. Welcome back to the MeatsPad podcast. It is your happy and hungry host, Phil Bass, back with another episode, and in fact, back with some guests that we've had in the past. We have Dr. Christy Calhoun, and we have Dr. Rob Maddock with the American Meat Science Association, my beloved organization. How you doing, guys?
Very good, thank you.
Good, thanks for joining again. And yes, we're having you back to talk a little bit more, expand a little bit more about a project that was already underway. That is a AMSA-led project. That is a USDA Technical Assistant Provider Program. So first off, let's remind everybody about what that is.
Yeah, so the Meat and Poultry Processor Technical Assistance Network is born out of the granting programs where this administration decided to invest a considerable amount of money, $1 billion was set aside to strengthen the meat supply chain, and basically in response to the meat shortages we saw during the COVID epidemic. One of the things that we are supposed to do is then help to the best of our ability to ensure that these dollars were well invested in the businesses that are enhanced or built from them continue to exist on the long term.
Yeah. Okay. So and that's definitely what we talked about quite a bit in the past. For those who listened before, we'll get back to some of the more detailed items and projects that have been funded as a result of this. But tell us a little bit about the website that is about to be launched.
Yeah, so the website is one of the components that's going to be an output from this grant that the American Meat Science Association received. And we felt we could do a good service to the meat industry from a technical standpoint because of the access to content that we have from our members, universities. We know where a lot of good science-based content resides. So the vision was to kind of put it all together in one place on a website that we're calling The Meat Locker, with the goal to be easily searchable and at a technical level that meets everyone's needs. So what that means is we are going to take some things and make simple, quick answers to typical questions. But we also are going to serve our science roots and keep a lot of our highly scientific reference data on there as well.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's categorized very well. And so that's what the Meat Locker is going to entail.
Well, you know, it's hard to be everything to everybody, but I got a chance at our recent board meeting. I'm on the board of directors for the American Meat Science Association, and Christy got up there and talked a little bit about it and showed some examples of what the website's going to look like, and I'm really excited about it because it kind of is an everything to everybody situation where you have everything from cutting demonstrations and videos, all the way to even slaughter videos, harvesting videos. But then, like you mentioned, it can even serve the academics from a very technical standpoint. So maybe tell us a little bit more about some of the details that can be found there.
So it is a work in progress. We kind of set a limit of what needed to be on it in order to launch. And we will continue to add information because it's endless what we could put on it, to your point.
Yeah.
But what we're finding is, a couple of revelations along the way is that we really think academics may look there for content for some of their classes. We think students might find it because we want it to be easily searchable. And just a one-stop shop is what we hope it becomes. And we want to take feedback. Again, it's work in progress, so we'll see what it needs to be down the road. We've already somewhat discussed that maybe a phase 2 will be a bit more consumer facing, but to be determined.
Yeah.
Again, it's hard to be all things to all people.
Right.
But at the base of it is not too highly scientific. When we launch, our first round of content will be more towards what we think a mid and small size processor might need, and they don't need to read the deep science and all the references.
Yeah. Well, and
But
that's definitely our audience that we're trying to target. Of course, the large ones are definitely welcome to utilize MeatsPad information, but then also hopefully use this as a resource as well. So, yeah.
Yes. And our goal is to launch it right ahead of the AAMP convention, which is in Omaha in August, early August. We see that as being kind of some of the core customers that we're targeting. Again, this grant had some, not necessarily criteria, but the target was to shore up the supply chain, expand capacity. And so we need to be a technical service provider to some of the smaller and mid-sized plants that don't always have access to technical and scientific help.
Yeah.
And so that's why that's our immediate core audience, and we'll go to the AMP and talk more about it and see what we learn from there, and again, modify as needed.
Yeah, the American Association of Meat Processors, for those smaller operations listening out there, it's a great organization to be a part of. Tons of resources within their own right. Great folks who can connect in a variety of ways. And if you're not a member and you're a smaller operator, I highly encourage in some form or fashion, either regionally or at the national level, become a member of the American Association of Meat Processors. That, and it makes a lot of sense to be launching at that point. Those are the folks that we need to be serving, right? So,
and interestingly, we may didn't mention it before, but this network that we've talked about, we are one of 7 that are in the network, and AAMP is one of them.
Okay.
And so collaboratively, we're trying to utilize existing information. So we were putting if AAMP had some good content on their website, we're going to link to it on the Meat Locker. Likewise, our other network providers. So we're trying not to create a lot of new content because we know a lot exists. We want to be a collator of it.
Yeah, well, and truly a network at that point, right? And truly a collaboration where we're getting the same message out there, which is sometimes hard to do, but important to do, especially when we're talking about more detailed things like food safety. You know, I mean, let's get the same message out there. Let's cook ground beef to the right temperature, et cetera.
Yeah, 100%. And on that end too, is anything we put up there, it's gone through us, American Meat Science, whether it's Christy or I or other staff or our members or whoever. So it's good, solid, scientifically backed information, which we think is important. You can find some things out there that are pretty good, but they may be some factual errors or some things that could actually even be dangerous if they were, if they're followed. So everything is going to be vetted, good. And the other thing about this is we plan on curating it too. So as new things come available, better information, something changes, there's a regulatory change, we'll be able to react where we won't have stagnant information or fact sheets that are 25 years old.
Right.
People are still trying to refer to when there's better and new information or better presented information.
Exactly. So advancements happen. Yeah, advancements occur. And I'm glad that we're doing that. I'm glad that we're going to have the robust vetting, as you mentioned, from the American Meat Science Association, also networking with information that's already out there. Mm-hmm. Let's not reinvent the wheel, for crying out loud, right? A great resource nonetheless, and I'm really excited to have that. I'm really excited myself to just kind of browse through there and see what I can glean for my own classes, So
now the expectations have been set.
How about that? How about that? Exactly. Yeah.
I will say, from a science standpoint, though, there is one area on there that's just called Meat Science, and we plan to link and utilize what would typically be found, or will still be found, on our AMSA website. Which is just some things we're known for, like sensory evaluation handbook and meat color guidelines. That's still all going to be available on AMSA, but we're also going to link to it on the Meat Locker, so we again have the depth of science there as well.
For those really interested in digging several shovels deep, that's on meatscience.org. That's our AMSA official website. And man, you can get all kinds of information there, and including to sign up for some of our continuing education type classes, Pork 101, Charcuterie 101, etc. Check it out. There's a lot of information there as well. And it's, like you said, it's going to be linked in with the Meat Locker, which is great. Any other thoughts on the Meat Locker before I ask you your next? We'll change gears just here just a little bit.
I think, like Christy had said too, is especially professionals or anybody who's interested, we're going to have a feedback mechanism where we're missing something like, hey, we need some more information about a specific topic,
Yeah.
and that'll come back to us, and we'll get working on it.
That's great. Yeah, yeah. And so so we'll mention at the end again how we can get a hold of you as well. So don't let me forget. But in the interim, this USDA Technical Assistance Provider Networks program, what have you, it's been underway for a little while now. Okay, so maybe you can tell us a little bit about the current status. What are some of our successes? What are some of the things that we've discovered? You told me a pretty interesting story at the board meeting. So
I don't remember what that story was.
canned deer meat, maybe.
Oh, okay. Well, let's start with that. So there's a lot of components. Like I said, a big part, we've done some pivots on this as we're 2 years into the project now. The meat locker, that was kind of a pivot to, hey, this is something we need. At the core, there's a lot of one-on-one consultation where if somebody has a question, an issue, they need something, they can get a hold of us, and if we can't answer the question with our own expertise, we find the people who can. So we're bringing people together. The cool thing is, because of the agreement we have with USDA, that doesn't cost the processor anything. So it's again, as you mentioned last time, it is free.
Yeah.
This is free help to a fairly big extent. And a good example of that, we just it was a contact Christy made when she was at the state inspectors meetings. And somehow we ended up with a plant from West Virginia that's canning venison.
Yeah.
And they needed a processing authority. As far as we know, there aren't any.
Yeah.
So we had to hunt, and this is where the network comes in, right? So at least even within AMSA, so we cast it out and said, who knows of a canning processing authority for meat? One of our members, like, hey, I know somebody, and they knew somebody who knew somebody, and we ended up with the expert. And so now
It's not who you are, it's who you know, right?
Yes. And so we brought them together to solve their meat canning problem.
Yeah. How about that? And it was an international connection,
International
right?
Was,
I mean,
the expert actually is in Brussels.
yeah. So, I mean, AMSA, even though we are the American Meat Science Association, we are very much international.
Yeah.
If you're part of the organization and you've been to our reciprocal meat conference this year, of course, in Oklahoma City, you look down the hallway and it is an international gathering, and it's folks from all over the place, and that's how you get different ideas, but also help continue to build your network and make great connections. And so I thought that was just a really cool story, and I appreciate you sharing that. So,
So we continue to try and get the word out about where AMSA fits in this grant we received.
Yeah.
And we keep coming back to, we're science-based, we're technically sound, and what problems can we help solve for processors that may not have the financial needs or the contacts, and we can do both. So it really, a big part of it in being a kind of a steward of the grant is being a good networker, because we need to let folks know that it's available and then follow through with the answers. And so we use our own membership to solve some of these problems, but we also, again, have that network of other providers, and they have some different skill sets that we don't. And so it's been good for AMSA overall to just work with other associations that we typically hadn't. So it's been wonderful to be part of this grant, which runs through the end of 2026.
okay, all right. Well, any other thoughts on the TAPS program?
Just a couple things. I think we want to talk about one of the things, again, a pivot. We've taken some of our dollars and made them available to universities, basically anybody who's doing programming to strengthen the meat supply chain. And just a couple of example projects. We're helping University of Nebraska. They have a meat manager training to people who are running the small meat plants they may be good butchers, but they don't have manager technical or knowledge. And so we're providing some funding to help with that. We provided funding to help send people to the Humane Handling Institute to learn stunning techniques, as that's a problem, because that's a super technical thing that has a lot of regulatory ramifications if you do it wrong. And so we've set aside dollars for that. We've got dollars invested in some extension programming in Ohio. We're going to help out some extension programming in Idaho as well.
That's right.
To to help train workforce development, do short courses. We got another project we're starting in Missouri to help them all with some workforce stuff. So, we're probably missing a couple there too. But yeah, we certainly still have dollars available to people listening there. If you're doing anything like projects, educational things to help improve the meat supply chain or strengthen the meat supply chain, we probably still have some dollars to help you out.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be an
you don't-
AMSA member to be a recipient. I mean,
Yeah.
you can direct it towards companies or towards institutions. We have a lot of flexibility.
Yeah. This is such a
Less than
great
dollars.
program. I mean, I've said it before, the freeness. Let's make sure we use this. It is available. It is a tool for you. If you're a small operator out there listening and you have a question that needs answered, especially like, there's some that maybe want to come online as USDA inspected. Within our own group right here, these folks could probably help you out. But then we also have a variety of other resources that are readily available to help you accomplish those goals. And so don't miss out on this. Yeah.
We appreciate you helping us get the word
Oh,
out
of course,
because
of
that
course.
actually has been a challenge.
Well,
so
that's-
any opportunity to talk about it, we welcome.
Sometimes it's hard. Maybe I mentioned it before, but you can lead a horse to water. Sometimes you got to even make them drown to drink. But we're going to get this thing out there. We're going to get the message out, and we're going to continue to help folks because that's what this is all about. We're here to serve the meat community. So, real quick, other than meatscience.org, how can folks get a hold of you?
Email is going to be the best because it's there. We can read it. So rmaddock@meatscience.org for Rob Maddock.
And C. Calhoun at meatscience.org or go to meatscience.org and we're in our directory
Yep.
on staff.
They'll find you. Yeah. Or you can email us even at MeatsPad at info@meatspad.com. And I will make sure that your message is passed on to these folks. So thank you so much, Dr. Maddock, Dr. Calhoun. Great to see you again and hope to have you back.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Excellent.